right to live.
Beloved ones, good evening. I'm the Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm coming to you from Vista, California, where I'm on the tribal land of the Luiseño Nation and the Kumeyaay Nation. And I want to welcome you to this service on behalf of the UU Poor People's Campaign Leadership Council, of which I'm one of the co-chairs. We are glad to join you all from the Church of the Larger Fellowship and with our special guest preacher, the Reverend Michael Crumpler. The UUA has been part of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival since the launch in 2017, where you saw in the video our President Susan Frederick Gray spoke and has been involved, and she sends her greetings this evening. The values of UUs and the Poor People's Campaign are aligned. And in these times, it is more important than ever. Here is a welcome from the co-chairs of the Poor People's Campaign, the Reverend Dr. William J. Barber and the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris.
Woke up this morning with my mind.
Hello, I'm Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, the second president of Repairers of the Breach.
And I'm Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, director of the Cairo Center, and we are co-chairs of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We want to thank you for all of your commitment in these serious times as we attempt to address the critical moral issues of our time. 140 million people living in poverty, and the interlocking injustices of systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, the war economy, and this false moral narrative of religious nationalism. We have work to do together for the heart and soul of this nation, and we thank you for every effort that you are engaged in to change the direction and the course of our country. We are proud to stand with Unitarian Universalist Association. Together, we are mobilizing towards the Mass Poor People's Assembly and National Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 20th, 2020.
Thank you for joining with dozens of unions, organizations, faith denominations, people of conscience, and signing on to be a June 20, 2020 mobilizing partner. We are in this fight together, and it is a fight for our lives. Go to www.june2020.org to RSVP to learn more about the Poor People's Campaign, about a mass Poor People's Assembly and National Moral March on Washington.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
What an invitation. What an opportunity to respond in these times. Beloveds, as we begin worship, I invite you to breathe with me. In a time of pandemic, when breath can mean death, when the words of George Floyd, "I can't breathe," echo down centuries of times when those words have been spoken but not heard, yet still uttered. In this time, breathe with me. The breath, Ruha, Pneuma, spirit of breath, spirit of life, breath of spirit. You move in, through, and among us. The breath connects us with all that ever has lived and breathed. The breath connects us to each other across space and time in this moment and to all that is living. The breath, the exhale, makes us ancestors for all who will come. We breathe. Everybody's got a right to live. We breathe. Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long. And with each breath, we vow we won't be silent anymore. Recently, the Reverend Dr. William J. Barber has asked this question: if you had 48 hours to live, 48 hours to breathe, what would you do with those last breaths? We breathe. There's an army rising up. We breathe to break every chain. We breathe. We breathe. And with each breath, we rise. We rise. We rise. We rise together. Beloveds, it is good to be together.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna sing.
Our people gonna sing.
Our people gonna sing. In spite of everything, hear our freedom ring. Our people gonna sing. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna fight. For what we know is right, march into the night. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna breathe.
Our people gonna breathe.
Our people gonna breathe. Whatever you believe, we have the right to breathe. Our people gonna breathe. Our people gonna pray.
Our people gonna pray.
Our people gonna pray. Take our rights away, see you on election day. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise.
Our
People gonna rise. Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
We kindle the chalice in memory of those who have gone before us, who rise up against tyranny and oppression and justice, and led the equity. Light this flame for those who are rising today. Dedicate ourselves to be parts of that stream of light, awakening light within ourselves and working to build the beloved community in our world. Please light your chalice now. Our common chalice is now lit.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise.
Our
People gonna rise. Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
We gather this evening declaring we will rise up to the challenge of facing injustice. We won't be quiet when justice cannot breathe. We rise up in love. We rise up in justice. Within the power of beloved community, we rise up. We invite you after each stanza to respond, we rise up.
We are in a time where the fissures of inequality show forth with volcanic force. We rise up.
We rise up.
Reason blossoming with truth is not enough. Responsibility demands that we speak truth to power. Staying within our buildings is not an option. We must risk trusting in the power of interconnection.
We rise up.
Alone, we are just that, alone. Together, we can engage and challenge injustice with love. Spiritual growth is done in community by challenging the world and ourselves to take action. We may live into a just world.
Yes, we rise up.
Compassion and love call us to act. Entropy and safety tempt us to be still. Beloved community asks, if not now, then when?
Beloveds, we rise up.
We want to rid ourselves of white supremacy, be accountable, and live within beloved community. We must act. We must proclaim. Everybody has a right to live. Our faith calls for nothing else.
We rise up.
We take hold of this moment. Now is the time to be part of the change. Now is the time to live into justice. We will respond always with the synergy of love to empower a new way of being.
We rise up.
We will face the interlocking injustices of racism, poverty, ecological devastation, militarism, and false narratives. We will be fueled by love.
Forward together, not one step back.
We rise up. Forward together, not one step back. We rise up. It is from a place of love and contemplation that I'm grateful to be here with y'all tonight. I live in the Great South in Georgia, only about 2 miles from where the shooting happened last night. And even though my heart is weary and I am tired all night long, I heard the helicopters moving around the sky, and I saw family and friends crying, protesting, saying that we are here, we are rising, and no more. You cannot deny our humanity anymore. It is from this place of deep reflection that I offer these words of where I am in this moment, and thinking back to the Poor People's Campaign March on Washington in 1968. I keep thinking about different versions of the call to action. I look at the different photos back then, and I could see the photos of I am a man, and I could see the photos of Black and brown people looking and saying, I am human, and hear me cry. I can hear the different versions of what was it in the campaign when folks were sitting across the table to think about who would be the perfect victim to use to move a campaign so that white gays would say it's okay for them to claim our humanity. And I think about myself as I too have sat in those positions, proximity to what I wanted to claim of who was the perfect victim, thinking that maybe my proximity would give me a little bit more space. Maybe I too could breathe a little bit more easy. But the reality is the system has always been designed to do what it's been doing now. And it's also the reality is that we have been designed and created to do what people are doing now. And that is resisting. That is rising up. That is risking their lives in this moment to say, even in the midst of COVID, and we know that 700 people a day is dying, particularly Black and brown bodies, people are dying. They are rising up to say, see me, I am human. I too am that protester that would be on the front lines and saying to folks that our children should never be in cages, and that we have gone across this country in different lands and taking our people, and there's no such thing as boundaries, and maybe we should reconsider, because we all have a right to life, to dignity, to food, to housing. I am that protester that also listens to my indigenous brothers and sisters and siblings as they say that they are sovereign nations and they too deserve to have this land that was stolen from them. I am that protester that is also saying that my body as it is beautiful and it's Black and it's round, and sometimes it might not be as able-bodied as we want folks to be or I should be, but I too deserve the right to have full access. I am that protester that when I am on the front line feeding the poor, because we have so many poor people that's outside and on the street who deserve housing and services, not sentences, and not to be ignored. I am that protester saying that my life, their life, is also worthy. The values of what we say. I am that protester that also looks at my trans brothers and sisters and say to each one of them that you are holy and you are whole, and no one should banish you from anywhere. And you too deserve to be loved fully as you are. You deserve to be seen, and no one should ever take that away from you. I am that protester. If I go into that store, can I come out with my pack of Skittles or my Lucy, or will you too shoot me? I am that protester that says that I deserve the full humanity and dignity of who I am, wherever I am. I am also that protester that's saying no justice, no peace, because this has been too long. We have done all the things we've done. We've played the role. We've gotten the degrees. We've accessed the highest places we could be, and still, we're waiting 3 to 4 to 6 to 8 hours to vote for something that we had to fight so long to be, and still we can't. And still we say that they shouldn't protest the way they are. They shouldn't mourn or grieve the way that they do. They can do it differently. And what I'm saying is the different versions of myself says that we've done it all those different ways. And my ancestors, they also say to me and whispered, and they say that we can't keep doing it the same way we want. And from our place of love, from this place of love, and love to me is also struggle. Love is also calling folks, not in, but calling folks to say, you gotta do better with your white kindred. You gotta do better with your own systems. You gotta do better with your own institutions to not just be right, but to be in right alignment to the call of this moment. It's not just us that are rising up. We are not just rising up. We are reworking this thing that we call is democracy. We are feeling ourselves into this moment to say, we will not take this anymore. And each one of us have a choice that we can make. We can side with love. We can side with justice. We can side with our native brothers and sisters, our poor people. We can side with the folks who are dying. We can side with folks who don't have access to healthcare. We can side with our gay and lesbian, transgender, non-binary folks. We can side with our sex workers. We can side with those who are been just demolished by life and who are trying just to touch a little bit more and still screaming to be seen as human, as full, and as dignified. Or you can side and be run over. You can side and be left out, because this is moving, this train is moving, and we won't turn back. Thank you.
This song that we're about to learn is a song that's entitled Somebody's Hurting My Brother. Now, this song was actually born in a town hall meeting around coal ash. And the meeting came about because Duke Energy was spilling coal ash into poor Black and brown and poor white neighborhoods. After hearing testimony after testimony of people who were impacted physically and mentally by the coal ash, this song came as an inspiration of those testimonies. So I'll call to you, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on, and your response is far too long. Yes, it's gone on.
Far too long.
It's gone on.
Far too long.
Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
Now the end is, and we won't be silent anymore. We'll say that together.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Okay? And so we'll try the rehearsal version, which goes, oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
far too long.
Yes, it's gone on
far too long.
I tell you, it's gone on
far too long.
Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
far too long.
Together, and we won't
be silent anymore.
Now we're gonna put a little rhythm to this, okay? Okay, but we're gonna speed it up just a little bit. Not too fast. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
far too long.
Yes, it's gone on
far too long.
Tell you it's gone on
far too long.
Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
far too long.
and we won't
Be silent
Hello, my name is Sonia Bianca. My husband Gino and I grew up as working class kids in Baltimore City. Despite serious health issues, we both worked hard and built decent careers with good salaries. I as an administrative assistant and Gino in the land survey field. When I turned 35, however, I began to suffer numerous symptoms that interfered with my ability to work. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and eventually I lost the job I loved. At the same time, the dot-com bubble burst and wiped out my 401k practically overnight. Then my private insurance policy stopped after 2 years. Luckily, I was granted Social Security disability insurance payments, but they were a quarter of what I was previously earning. We were able to sell our row home for a profit, however, and move to a small home in the country virtually debt-free. Unfortunately, the minor repairs we were led to believe the home needed turned into tens of thousands of dollars of necessary repairs. Gino had started the land survey company to try and insure for our future needs, but the economy soon turned sour. By 2008, we were forced to claim bankruptcy. Gino had found employment elsewhere, but that company soon had to lay off most of their workforce. So now, in his upper 40s, Gino found himself unemployed for the first time since the age of 13. We had to forfeit our home. Gino was unemployed for 9 months and about to lose his benefits when a job with the city of Baltimore came through. Not quite a year later, Gino was physically attacked on the job twice within a month's time and left with brain injuries and PTSD. He was unable to work or even read for 4 years. We struggled constantly with his workers' compensation insurer to get him the treatments he needed. He was finally able to begin work again in the private sector, but continues to suffer the lasting effects of his injuries. I continue to experience daily chronic pain and have acquired additional diagnoses over the years. And we strive to live simply and peacefully, but struggle to meet basic costs like dental bills and auto repairs. I stopped taking one of my medicines when the copays reached $250 a month. I'm sharing my story because I want people to know that you can do everything right, try your utmost, and still fall prey to a system that only works for the lucky few. I feel fortunate because we had family and each other to lean on through it all, but my heart weeps for those who have nobody. Only through our solidarity can we hope to improve our condition. We need a strong social safety net. And when we fail to vote or get involved, we give those who would oppress us permission to continue doing so. Thank you.
Because this campaign is paying homage to the old and the new, we think about the then and the now of a movement. We're bridging the gap between 1968 and 2018, which is 50 years of just revolution and 50 years of activism. So we also incorporated a new part that incorporates hip-hop, a little hip-hop aspect to it, so to bring the old with the new. So when we get to that, we'll teach you how the words flow and go.
So your words are first, everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Because everybody has a right to live. You got that?
You got that.
All right.
And so then the second part will be everybody's got a right to live, and then you all will say to live. And then everybody's got a right to love. To love. Everybody's got a right to dream. To dream. Everybody's got a right to learn. To learn. Got it? All right.
Here we go.
Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live.
Everybody's got a right to live. To live. Everybody's got a right to dream. To dream. Everybody's got a right to love. To love.
backs are against the wall, and we got no choice but to push.
You know, before you come down here and cast stones in a glass home, walk a mile in their shoes for a minute.
1 out of 16 people in Aberdeen are homeless. A lot of people are young. That's something that's...
And this encampment?
Yeah.
So they're millennial?
Yeah, between 18 and 35.
Between 18 and 35.
Is probably the largest demographic here.
I worked 41 years in the coal mines. I have black lung, and it's just unfathomable what these poor coal miners have to go through in order to get what they have worked for and deserve.
My name is Pamela Roach. I'm from Lowndes County, Alabama, and I live in a mobile home with my 2 kids.
Sorry.
And I got raw sewage. I don't have no money on power. And I have to travel back and forth to Birmingham to take my daughter with the CPAP machine. Don't have a car and don't have no way to take her.
There's a new chemical company that's producing another carcinogen. And when you think of that, what effect does that have on us as people, especially our children? But in our community, it's amazing the people who just started dying of cancer. That became the big fear. And when my wife was diagnosed with cancer, I was amazed at the black women that would ring our doorbell and walk in the door and pull a wig off to show my wife that I have it too.
Kansas farmers are committing suicide at a far greater rate than the national average. Why? Because they're stressed out. They're in the most dangerous line of work there is, yet many can't afford to buy health insurance.
We started in a Lem Pomo Indian colony, which when you enter the reservation, before you enter the reservation, it says hazardous area. Enter at your own risk. They've been mining mercury since 1957 and have left it open with heavy metal leaking into the water and the land. They stopped fishing in the 1970s and have a high rate of cancer in the community. I worry because I have family, not only just my family there, but the indigenous people in the surrounding communities that are being affected. We talk about healthcare. We talk about worrying about the environment, but yet when they're allowing open pit mines and letting it leak into the land, into the water, the high rate of cancer and the high bills of health is going to continue to raise because of corporations and greeds and politicians that don't want to listen.
I'm 46 years old. I've lived in poverty here in West Virginia every day of my life. And I'm working. I am working poor with a bachelor's degree. I'm doing the best I can with what I have.
I'm here today to share my daughter Venus's story. Venus discovered a small lump in her breast and she wasn't insured. Venus had to be approved for every prescription and every piece of medical equipment that she needed. I'm standing here today in solidarity with the Poor People's Campaign because no one should have to bury their child in America because they don't have health care insurance.
This is not right.
Our democracy is in trouble.
Our democracy is in trouble.
And we come to demand.
And we come to demand.
Second warning.
Because it's crucial that we make ourselves heard.
We are the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And we are here. We are poor. We are clergy. And we're here to say to our nation's capital and to the highest court in this land that everybody has a right to live. Everybody has a right to learn. Everybody has a right to love. Everybody has a right to living wages. Everybody has a right to vote. Everybody has a right to thrive in this society.
Everybody say, I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Freedom fighter, and he taught us how to fight.
The poor and the clergy We read Article 6 of the Kentucky State Constitution that says we have a right to free assembly.
We are demanding that we stop the war on our poor.
There are 140 million poor and low wealth people in this country, almost half of this nation. And any nation that ignores half of its people is in a moral and economic crisis.
So we will do more. There will be a movement that will break through the con and bring people together to save the heart and the soul of this democracy and this world.
Hello, friends. I'm the Reverend Michael Crumpler, the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director at the Unitarian Universalist Association and the sabbatical minister at the First Unitarian Universalist Society in Brooklyn, New York. My pronouns are he, him, and his. What an honor to have been asked to bring the homily for this important gathering during this important moment in our time, when so much is at stake. Given all that is going on and all that our hearts and minds are carrying, I'm going to take the luxury, or perhaps the risk, of taking us back to ordinary times. Just what do I mean by that? Well, in ordinary times, the term ordinary time is the term the Christian church uses to describe those ordinary times of the year when nothing is going on. I mean, maybe there's a baptism, or communion, or new members are joining our congregation. Maybe the AC or heat breaks, or we lose a dear member of our congregation. But in ordinary times, for the most part, well, they're just, shall I say, ordinary. The sick are shut in. The inner city is homeless and hungry and violent and gentrified. You know, ordinary time. Remember ordinary time? When we would be sure to shake the hand of the visiting Black family and beg them to stay. In ordinary time, the diversity committee would host the beloved conversations and maybe 10 or 12 ordinary members would show up. The capital campaign would raise 5 or 10 million for infrastructure that few members knew needed repair. In ordinary time, whoever made the coffee, whoever unlocked the door and turned off the lights, unlocked the door and turned off the lights. Whenever we would leave, they would lock the door behind us. Speaking of unlocking doors and turning off the lights, remember back in ordinary time when we would call the police when we suspected an intruder? You remember. When we trusted the police enough to recommend their services to an abuse victim or report the vandalism of our building when the Black Lives Matter flag got torn down. Good old ordinary time. In ordinary time, some people would have and other peoples would have not. In ordinary time, we would take the fellowship leftovers to the food shelter or pantry and feel good about it. In ordinary time, the Fair Trade Fair was amongst our best efforts to dismantle systemic capitalism and economic devastation. In ordinary time, we would choose whether to misgender a trans member. We would choose whether to provide sanctuary to someone vulnerable to deportation. We would choose whether or not we would use the term white supremacy. In ordinary time, we had to vote to determine whether or not the Black Lives Matter flag was an appropriate symbol for our congregation. Back in ordinary time, the blue and pink and black and brown stripes were an abomination to Gilbert Baker's Rainbow Pride flag. Yes, those were ordinary times. In ordinary times, we would say things like, the poor will always be among you. Back in ordinary times, more than half of our children did not have a place to sleep, eat, walk safely in their neighborhoods without being gunned down. Those were, well, dare I say, ordinary. In ordinary times, I would have had to research all kinds of facts and figures in order to convince you that everybody got a right to live. In ordinary times, I would have to beg and plead and preach and debate with you that Black people have a right to live without being gunned down in the streets. Yes, in ordinary times, I would have had to wait until Transgender Day of Remembrance, after 20 and 30 and 40 Black trans women had been killed, and remind you that every Black trans woman got a right to live. In ordinary times, we would wait until a Democrat was in the office before even considering arguing that trans people have a right to affordable health care. In ordinary times, I would lose you when I say that looting and rioting in the street is the language of the unheard. Yes, in ordinary times, we would wait. We would wait for justice to roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-living stream. But these are not ordinary times. These times are anything but ordinary. In these times, we are coming to believe that the ordinary is what is radical, and what was once radical is now becoming ordinary. In these here times, it has become very clear that ordinary just won't do. In these times, we will defund the police because everybody's got a right to live. In these times, we will dismantle white supremacy because everybody's got a right to live. Yes, in these times, we will dismantle systemic capitalism because everybody's got a right to live. Yes, in these here times, no longer will we be satisfied with the poor always being among us because everybody's got a right to live. May it be so.
We're so glad to be with you all to support the UUA and the Poor People's Campaign.
Sing with us in English and in Spanish.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Sigamos adelante. Siempre adelante. Siempre adelante. Sin volver atrás. Sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Amaremos con pasión. Siempre con pasión. Siempre con pasión, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gotta reach across our borders, reach across our borders, reach across our borders. Never turning back, never turning back. Vivamos sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras. volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reunite the families, reunite the families, reunite the families, never turning back, never turning back. Familias reunidas, siempre reunidas, siempre reunidas, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gotta keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, never turning back, 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 never turning back. See you June 20th.
Thank you, Emma's Revolution. And thank you, Reverend Crumpler. Thank you to everyone who has brought such prophetic words. As you have reminded us, there is no turning back to death-dealing ordinary time. Lament, beloved, once cried out, begs for the embrace of an enlivened love. Prophecy, beloved, once delivered, deserves more than words. It calls for action. Liberation is not a single place, but it is the movement. We know that long before any officer placed a knee to the neck of George Floyd, the new Jim Crow, mass incarceration had been suffocating George. That job loss and denial of health care was taking his breath. Underfunded education pulled the ancestors' breath from his chest. That systemic poverty and racism ensured that his heart, bearing the violence of generational injustice, had not health care nor preventative care to heal it. That his voice, his vote, had been thefted from him in his home state. And that his community, our communities, are militarized with budgets at the local, state, and federal level that continue to ensure the war economy crushes Black and brown folks here and abroad. That the same lies of white supremacy ensured environmental racism, ecological devastation that poisoned the air and stole the waters from George and his family. And so I call on my dear Unitarian Universalist siblings from across this country and beyond these colonial borders. I call us now to act. I call on us now, Unitarian Universalists, all of us, from congregations, from beyond congregations, from circles of community called Beloved, from the UUs for social justice, from our wider association, for those who pledge to side with love, from the church of the larger fellowship, and those building beloved community in the name of this faith, who have held to this faith in their very bones and beings as doors to congregations and associations and professional associations have been slammed. I am calling on us all as the ancestors are about our shoulders. Some with the lament of the work undone, some with the strength of soul siblings, and some crying out with the love that is justice. We listen for the ancestors, especially for the Black organizers, leaders, and prophetic witnesses, the trans siblings, youth, Indigenous, people of color. You are the breath in our bodies now, ancestors, the cries of the wind and the fuel in the fire. And we here on this earth live into the stardust of calling. And so let us answer now, the ancestors, and act. Let us answer one another as beloved to each other, to be better humans together, to be better beings on this earth, to repair this breach. Act to register for the movement, act to give to the movement right now, not in some distant to-do list or hope for moment in the future, beloved, but right now, June 20, 2020. Register, commit for a virtual and vital gathering, June 20, 10 a.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern, June 21st, 6 p.m. Eastern. Register for a virtual and vital gathering. Register to never settle for less than the eradication of systemic poverty, racism, the war economy, militarism, ecological devastation, and at last the decimation of this distorted moral narrative of religious nationalism. And so we register, we pledge, we donate to this Poor People's Campaign. Now, not in some distant moment. Now, beloved, as ancestors cry out and youth rise up. Now, beloved, we register, we rise up, we declare against the night sky. We declare in the names of those now ancestors. We declare youth, elders, voice of conscience. We are the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And we are going to keep on going forward, never turning back.
Gotta keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning back.
In the words of the Reverend Lynn Unger, through the work of our hands and the work of our lives, our love is made real. May we be grateful for all that we bring and share to make love real in our world. Thank you, Reverend Tanner, for that powerful prophetic call to action. In his 1966 Ware lecture at the UUA General Assembly in Hollywood, Florida, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King called on Unitarian Universalists to remain awake through the revolution and to be maladjusted. Maladjusted to segregation and discrimination, to religious bigotry and poverty, to militarism and physical violence, he said. So I charge you today, be maladjusted to systemic racism and sexism, ableism and nativism. Be maladjusted to xenophobia, homophobia, and transphobia. Be maladjusted to systemic poverty and ecological devastation. Be maladjusted to militarism and religious nationalism. Be maladjusted to those things that would oppress, separate, or divide us. Now is the time for an enlivened and courageous love, a love that is not just a feeling, but a decision to act, a way of being and witnessing our values and convictions in the world, a courageous love that calls us to embrace those who are different as siblings in the struggle for a better nation, a better world, a better life, a courageous love that will not let us go, let us down, or let us off the hook. A courageous love that demands we rise, even with a trembling voice and shaking bodies, rise to meet hate and fear and risk all for love. Let us answer the call of this enlightened, enlivened, and courageous love with the yes of our lives, trusting that this love is real, that it is within all of us, that it will guide us through the hard night. Let us risk all for this love, for together we shall overcome. So may it be. Shalom, salam, om shanti, amen. Blessed be.
There is power in the name of freedom. There is power in the name of freedom. There is power in the name of freedom. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There is power in the name of freedom. There is power in the name of freedom. There is power in the name of freedom. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There is power in the name of freedom. There is power in the name of freedom. There is power in the name of freedom. To break every chain, 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 to break every chain. I hear the chains falling.